Good morning, Grand Rising. Once again, it's Charlie Riverman Bergeron here in the southwest coast of Maine in the United States, offering you his messages of light and love and peace. And today's topic is blessings of light. And I honor each and every one of you around the world as light is an important subject right now due to the fact that we're engaging with the full moon and winter solstice. So it seems that light is happening all around us, and some of us in the uh, northern hemisphere are going to enter into a shift. It's actually our darkest day for light, and it's going to shift to becoming brighter. And for those of you in the southern hemisphere, it's going to be your days of most light, and uh, and then the light diminishing. So, good morning, Wayne. So here we are on Mother Earth, sharing the light, but in different frequencies and different amounts. Yet we all share the light, and we all are the light. And that's what I want to talk about. Good morning, Amanda. Good morning, Margaret. It's nice to be able to, they've rearranged the format here so it's easier to see you. So I just wanted to wish you a grand rising as the sun rises. And I wasn't up early to see the rising over the horizon, but it was shining brightly in my backyard, and the birds were at the feeder. And it's always nice to awaken to something that's pleasant, and knowing that everything in life has a pattern that it follows, and when it's in alignment with itself, everything works. And the fun part of a bird feeder is that you get all these different birds coming. You have I have um, blue jays, and I have cardinals, and I have sparrows, and uh, some birds I don't even recognize. I don't know what they are, but they all come. And then we have the squirrels. The squirrels are just voracious little beings, and they can go through tons of birdseed. And a lot of people don't like them because they eat too. Well, they're only trying to survive like all of us. This is what we do. We find an abundance of supply of something, and and we are attracted to that because it sustains us. This is what blessings of light does to us. Yet you can't go and buy light. You can't put light into a feeder and feed it. So although we can um, buy machines that will offer us different light frequencies, and we can bathe in those for a variety of healing modalities. And the reality of light, without light, there'd be no life, or not life as we know it anyway. And even in the deepest parts of the seas where the light doesn't get there, the animals light themselves. So light is really one of the most precious, and perhaps it is the most precious thing we have in life. Yet we take it for granted. We don't respect it. We have created time out of light. We've created all kinds of things out of light to govern and rule ourselves. And yet it was never intention to be that. It was never intention to be a controlling factor. It was there for the benefit of all. How do we embrace that light going into 2022 is the question, I guess, that arose in me this morning as I watched the light. And I said, well, what am I going to talk about today? And the message was, you're going to talk about the light, Charlie. what else is there to talk about, really, as we end this year, 2021? And we look around the world and we see the chaos and we see the darkness and we see the manipulation and control and lack of this and lack of that and disease and pandemics and all of these things that are uh, playing into our daily life and creating a darkness. They are creating a darkness in all of us. And no matter how we try to avoid that darkness, at some point we have to accept that it exists. This is the yin and yang. But it's out of balance again. And so this is now so out of balance that we have to correct it. Who is this we? How do we do this? For those of you who join here on Humanity Healing, this is what you come to Humanity Healing for, is to really heal humanity. I mean, it's very proudly displayed in the label of the format. And you can't do it alone. And this is what the message is today, that each of us have unique abilities. Each one of us have a sense of responsibility. And yet we don't know how to engage many times with each other, or we think we have to form these large groups of um, focus. Those are all well and good, but the main focus should be within ourselves. And as the collective of individuals, it is the light and the love and the peace that connect us. We don't need a format. We don't need a group. We don't need a website. What we need is to come home to our light self. I've expressed it many times in my near-death experience was the order that I experienced, and I don't study other people's journeys. They all have their own unique journey, but mine was going from peace to light to love. And source was love. That was the last stop. Love, pure love. No body, no people, no nothing, just the energy of love. And when I came back through and into the light again. And it was light brighter than any sun. You could take 10,000 suns and put them out there, and it couldn't even touch that light. And then come back into this aura, this energy of peace before I entered into my body again, and was so rudely awakened by a doctor who was very sarcastic. And I replied in my human sarcasm as well. Interesting. Blessings of light. However, when I came back, that light remained visible in me, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to work with it. I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what it meant. Nobody had ever taught me about this. So within each of you is this place that you've not been taught, not been told. Although now with everybody working on different dimensions and quantum fields and stuff, so we're beginning to understand more about light, the frequencies of light, and what they truly are as far as creation, the creation of humanity, the creation of the planet, the creation of everything. There's light. There's a balance, so the other balance is the darkness. And this is what we have going on now. Mother Earth is here in the northern hemisphere going to have its day of the least amount of light on the 21st. And in the southern hemisphere, it's going to be the longest day of light. What does that represent? It represents balance. So the key to light and dealing with the light within us is about balance. And I've written a great, my show notes, and I'm not following them. as usual. I'll glance at them and I'll say, oh, I got to bring that over. But, this is where we are. And I laugh. And thank you all for being here week after week and when you can and catch it when you can. And I do this out of my heart and out of my love for each and every one of you that, I know that I'm not the only one going through this right now. And I know that our ancient ancestors went through this. And so, what I want people to do during this time of the year, um, we call it the end of the year. Well, we made the calendar up. There was a calendar before this. It didn't have days, it didn't have hours, it didn't have any of that. We knew what it was based on the sun, the light. We trusted the light to guide us. We knew when we could grow things. We knew that when we had to harvest things. We knew it by the transition of the light on the planet and in our locality. And we created rituals, we created prayers, we created celebrations all around light. And when we think about our ancestors doing that, we just take it for granted. Oh, they were just these indigenous people that they didn't really know what they were doing. Yet, if you look at the world and you look at all of these ancient sites that are now, um, they're revealing them even now that haven't been revealed, and you look at the amazing wisdom of these ancestors who are supposedly just indigenous people. Just indigenous people. They didn't know anything. Who was it that first declared that they didn't know anything? I would like to know the name of that person because that person created a whole new system of powering over people by telling them they didn't know what they were talking about. That their thousands of years of rituals were worthless, that they were worthless. And we live this today. How many times are you saying you're worthless? Now we're saying you can't go anywhere unless you have a card that says you've had a vaccine. And I read this morning a cute article about somebody in a restaurant, and they were asking for their card for vaccine. So the people asked them, well, I want to see the vaccine card of the cook, your card, and everybody else's card before I eat. This is the abstract of this insanity. This insanity that somebody and somehow thinks that controlling everyone else is going to assist the world in being better. That if we create a narrow path and get everybody on that path and focus it in a direction that we think is the best for them and herd them like sheep, that we will create a better world. I have to ask, a better world for who? Are the trees having a better world? Are the animals who are becoming extinct having a better world? Are the plants and vegetables who are now poisoned with chemicals and our earth poisoned with chemicals, is that having a better world? Who's getting the best out of this is the question. So this is where light comes in. Light has been the sustaining energy for all life on planet Earth. Yes, there are things that survive in the darkness, but it's a balance of light and dark. And right now, this is what's out of balance. And this is where we come in with our light and tapping into our own personal light that never goes out until we pass the light on and go back into it. And then the body disappears, it disintegrates and becomes back what it was before the light ignited who we are in our mother's wombs, or our mother's bodies anyway. The moment of conception is a flash of light. There's actually a picture of it. And I was shocked when I saw that when the sperm hits the egg, there's an actual light flash that can be photographed and is photographed. And either they lied to me or I'm crazy, but I'm not going either way. I look at that and in that moment, I realize, what is that flash of light? The idea, we have this little cartoon. Eureka, the flash of light goes off. It's that moment. It's that moment of energy that is life. Yes, things live in the dark. There are fish under the sea which create their own light. There are things that live in the dark and don't have a problem whatsoever. So you can live without life. But what is that life like? So our ancient ancestors knew all this naturally. They didn't go to school to learn this. Somebody didn't teach it to them. Somebody didn't say, well, this is this. They were teachers, but they understood by living it. And this is what today's talk about. Like, how do we live our life, our light? We have to live our light. We have to go within ourselves and find that spark of light that still exists and tap into it and bring it through into our hearts, because it's deep down in our hearts, and bring it through our hearts to the surface, and then share it with each other, just as we do love and peace. This is how we've evolved to this point. And it was kept in the sacred sites. The energy they were built, they were aligned to the light, they were aligned to the rising light of the solstice, all of the different markers of the year. Now, these were people thousands of years ago. There was no science, there was no intelligence as we look at it now. The intelligence was right inside the body. And they knew what to do and when to do it. And that's what kept them alive, and that's what kept them progressing to utilize and create different tools and different ways of doing things that were easier and more beneficial to create more abundance for this sustenance. It wasn't about greed, although at some point it did become greed. So we're entering a new cycle of light. And I look at 2022 as that marker point. Many other people, many others do, perhaps yourselves. There's a lot of stories out there. I just look at it as I do every year, but 2022 seems very powerful. 2, 2, 2. And I don't say this in public much, but I work with a group that's called the Crystalline Collective Consciousness of 22. I don't have a problem saying that. Many people think I'm crazy anyway, so it doesn't matter if somebody else does. But what they are is a collective of beings that are intergalactic, not just our galaxy. And they come from basically 22 galaxies. And that sounds total insanity. And perhaps it is, but this is how I look at it. This is how I've described this field of light. And that's what it is a field of light that has an intelligence and a communication system. And each one of us have the ability to tap into that. And I'm going to say that Most of you, if not all of you, do that on a regular basis, or you wouldn't be sitting here listening to me. Because this isn't about me, this is about you, this is about all of us shifting and changing into something that we already are, but have been sort of contained and dumbed down to the point where we forgot how powerful we truly are as these living beings with a brain and a consciousness and a physicality that depends on Mother Earth and unity, unity, not separation. And when we look at the world right now that we're going through over the past 2 years, all I can see is deeper and deeper and deeper separation. And I think each one of you can understand that and can feel that even within your own families. We have holidays coming up now. And the big question that everybody asks, did you have the booster? Did you have the shot? Did you, oh, I'm not going because my 5-year-old son hasn't had his booster. You're not doing something. You're stopping your life because somebody's told you that you can't do this because you're dangerous to everybody else. I'm not saying COVID isn't real. It is. My beloved is a mess. And that's just from the booster shot, not from the COVID. I had COVID. I still have brain fog. I'm not saying this is not real. But what I'm talking about is the separation that it's created. That everybody is now suspect. We're all suspects. We could be germ carriers. Well, we've been germ carriers since we came out of the mother's womb. I hate to tell you that, but that's what we are. There's germs in our body from birth. This is the nature of life. Germs exist on planet Earth. Surprise. The issue is if we live in light and we allow the light to process through our bodies and we share that light with love, the energy of love behind it, it will cure more things than it will harm. However, many people will take it as being harmful. And that's strange. You try to help somebody, you try to share your light with somebody, and what are you doing to me? I'm trying to love you. I'm trying to appreciate you. I'm trying to encourage you. This is where we are. So, this solstice and this light season, whether you're in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere, is, a perfect time to create a new cycle of light within ourselves and know that we are not here to hide our light anymore, any more than we're to hide our love anymore. And in doing that, we will create peace. Peace is the natural uh, energy frequency when you balance light and love and bring it through. As I said, it was love, light, peace. But then you come into this physical body and it's like, where am I? Oh, I'm back here. And here is a place where the energies can be distorted or manipulated very easily. And now, with the new technologies and the new wisdom that people have based on their seeking truth, and I'm going to honestly say I think they're seeking truth, but they take that truth and they manipulate it in order to empower themselves rather than to empower the whole. Why should somebody be denied water? Why should somebody be denied electricity? Why should, this is what we're doing. We take it and then we say, well, we've created this uh, money system. I mean, if you look in the Bible, Jesus went into the temple and cast all the tables away. What was his problem? This is 2,000 years ago. He was making a statement that this isn't right. This is wrong. That there's a need for commodity and exchange of energy. But what you're doing is you're selling prayers. You have to, you can't go to the temple and pray without buying something. Hello? And it was before that as well, I'm sure. It was just, it's a story that I always um, I find amusing. So we need to take time to look within ourselves for that light. That light is there, it's in you, and you are that light. And no matter what you do, you cannot change that, whether you like it or you don't like it. You are peace, you are light, and you are love. And right now, all of us have this opportunity to start sharing it. And when we do that, we also need to be cautiously aware that there are people who will be upset by that. They won't know how to react to it. And I say that lovingly because we can't be this Pollyanna and say, oh, there's nothing wrong, everything is beautiful. Well, it is, but not everybody else buys that story. So, how can we return to our natural true self and share that natural true energy like the sun? We're like suns, where each one of us is a little powerhouse of sunlight. How can we bring that brilliance into other people's lives without startling them to the point where they want to kill us? I laugh because I understand there's no such thing as death. There's only a shift in form. But I can't do what I do here anywhere else because this is where I do what I do. And this is where you do what you do. And what we do here is express the true self. That's our purpose, is to express the true self. We've had some wonderful stories, and we still will create wonderful stories. But to remember that they're stories. They're not real life. Real life is what you are physically experiencing and engaging in. My talking to you is a story, but my doing this is a reality. It's my light shining. And it's our hearts that generate the light, not the head. And this is what I keep, I don't like the word preaching, but it is sort of a preaching that I do, is get out of this head and into your heart. Drop down into the heart. Open the heart wider and wider and wider. And when you get it pried open, keep it open. Everything in the world is going to want you to shut it down. It's going to attack you in the heart. It's going to hit you right. It's like getting punched right in the heart. If I want to kill somebody, I'm going to take chi and I'm going to send it right to their heart. That's the 0 point. This is where life begins. This is where life ends. The first organ to come online is the heart, and the last organ to go is the heart. You enter from the heart and you leave through the heart. This is so simple. The problem is we've been taught that the heart is not what we should be focusing on. We need to be focusing on everything else around it. Come back home. The light is in your heart. I'll say that one more time. The light that you seek is in your heart, and it enters there first. And it is there. And it's like a deep well. You have to keep going deeper and deeper and deeper into that well, sometimes before a few rays of light will come up. And this is not somebody else's responsibility. It's each of our own responsibilities to dive deeper into our hearts and to trust that those little sparks of light will rise. We got to clear up all the debris. It's like I'm seeing an archaeological dig where you just take a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little. What gets revealed is this beautiful civilization that lived thousands of years ago. We also, as the light beings we are, have lived thousands, if not millions, of years. Whether it be here on planet Earth, somewhere else, in some other form, in some other concept. This is what we're learning. This is what we're learning every day. When we say, where did that come from? What I had this thought. Where did that come from? Everybody will say, oh, now it's the field, it's the quantum field, it's all of this. It's always been there. We're not discovering anything new. We're just waking up to the reality that has always been around us and we've always been a part of. But the key for each one of us is whatever you feel is your light, what helps you see, what helps you balance. That's what's literally important right now. And in 2022, this is going to be more critical for all of us to align with people who talk about positive things, who talk about hopeful things, who are actually doing something positive for others. It can be as much as buying a little child an ice cream cone, or it doesn't have to be a big dramatic thing. It's just coming back into the heart and expressing that. The heart wants to give. It's a generator. Generators give. They create and give. And each one of you is an amazing generator of peace, light, and love. Fear, anger, hate. No, we don't have room for fear. That will always be there. It's up to us to choose not to go into fear, anger, and hate. We have the right to choose. When people take our right to choose away, we are, not a nice word, we're enslaved. And it's time now for us to honor the freedom and the power of who we truly are without going to war. We don't need to go to war. We don't need to fight. Just stand in your heart. Come back home. Your heart is calling you home. And it's your hearts that are generating the light energy. It's through you and through your heart that it generates it out into the world. And many times I look and say, how do I express this? Because it's so simple, and yet it's so far-fetched with all I've been taught my whole life. And I don't recommend people dying having near-death experiences to come and do this. There's a whole lot easier way, believe me. Come back to your heart. Look within yourself. Look within yourself for the light that is calling to rise within you. Those are the words I wrote. You are that light and are rising to shine brightly for the next generations, which will collectively repair and replace thousands of years of selfishness and greed. We're the way showers. We're the lanterns in the distance that are saying, follow the light. When people will pass by me and they'll see you and they'll say, oh, there's the next light. I got to go that way. We have an amazing role to play in the future of humanity. And it isn't about earning dollars, and it isn't about feeding our faces or driving a car or anything that we think is important. All of that will shift and change when we come back to remembering how beautiful and how powerful we are, and how we can get along with each other. We don't have to fight and squabble and steal from each other or kill each other for no reason whatsoever, other than two things. And I love to tell this story. I was a 94-year-old man, and I was working in his house. This is 30 years ago or more, even more, because 30 years ago I died. So it's got to be like 40 years ago. Damn, I'm getting old. Maybe I'm 94. But he was very, very alert. Could barely move. Physically, he was a mess, but his brain was, and he says, we were talking about something, and he was sort of quite a philosopher. And he says to me, he says, and these are his words, there are only two sins in this world. And so, I'm waiting for the shoe to drop, as you are. Greed and jealousy. And each one feeds the other. And that stuck in my head. When I heard that, I had no reference to anything, but out of the blue, this man said those words. There are only two sins in this world, greed and jealousy, and each one feeds the other. I thought he was going to go into a biblical Ten Commandments thing. No. That's how simple. It's how simple it is to corrupt anyone. In light, there is no greed. The sun shines for everyone. In light, there's no jealousy. Because all light comes from that one light. Other than the false lights that we have in our room, which is electricity. But all they're doing is mimicking light. You can't buy and sell true light. We can use it, but they can't own it. They can't shut it off. They can't charge you for it. Well, they can try. I'm sure they will. If they can find a way, they will. But what does that bring it back to? Greed and jealousy. I leave you with those two words today, and know that light dispels both greed and jealousy. Light is the life force from the beat of our hearts. I started with a spark of light. And this is who we are. As that spark of light took form, It's our hearts that generate the light energy that we have to give and offer each other, and to be a light in each other's life. And there are a lot of people in darkness right now, and they need us. They need us to be that little spark of light, even if it's just a kind word, even if it's just a smile, even if, when you're wearing a mask, smile or nod or offer to help them or let them cut in front of you in line. Show kindness. That's where light really works, is when we put that light into action. Make it grow the vegetables. Make it grow the love in another person. So I'm going to let you roll around in the light, get out in the light. Know that all the distortions that we are dealing with right now and that aggravate the living daylights out of us are like the lava coming out of the volcano. It's very destructive. It's very destructive. Yet the volcano does carry light. It contains light. It's just in the form of fire. And the message of fire is fire, when it's contained, is powerful and magnificent and offers us comfort in the winter and the cold, and it cooks our food. It's not our enemy. But fire that's left to go wild destroys everything. So be the light that you are in whatever simple way you can. You don't have to do major things, big things, things that are going to put your name on the front page. Simple acts of kindness, simple acts of love. Those moments carry the light to the people who are both afraid of love and afraid of light. And they've been made fearful of light and love in order to take away their power. And it's that simple. In closing, may peace be within you and around you as the light and love you are, as you join with others in the returning light. And may we live in better balance. I love you all. I thank you all. I respect you all. I hope my little chat has given you some food for thought of how you can bring that into the world. You can be one of those little Christmas lights on the Christmas tree, or wherever you see the light. Doesn't matter how small of a light you are. Just be the light. I didn't know if I was going to be here next week because it's Christmas Eve, but I'm going to plan to be here on Christmas Eve or day. So, and yeah, so if you are busy and don't catch this, it'll always be in the replays. But yeah, I have the call to be here in a little story. Love you all. Keep smiling. Keep see the light. Yeah, want some of that light? Here, I'll get some of that light for you. It's that easy. Just easy. Catch the light and then send it. Send it with love.